Hey, I want to talk to you about a thinning a forest, and I'm going to show you just a real small example on thinning, but kind of a before and after. But first, we should talk about, okay, why is it important to thin? Should we thin? And those kinds of questions. Okay, first of all, it's going to depend on your individual circumstances, your context. Okay, here in North Idaho, the vast majority of family forests are overstocked. Okay, they're overstocked, and so thinning is a good practice for forest health. All right, so you can see behind me, our forest is no different. It is in many places it's overstocked. We've thinned in some areas where it is, I would say, proper stocking, and other areas aren't that bad, but we have plenty of areas that need thinning. And so why would we thin? We want to thin because of, well, many reasons. Like I said, overall, it's forest health, it's fire prevention, all those kinds of things. Since we exclude fire, we have to manage forest. Okay, in a natural system, fire would manage the thinning forest, or, to some degree, these forests would self-thin anyway, but that could be through pests, disease, but most of the time, say 100, 200 years ago, it was fire. Okay, so surface fires, not heavy, deep stand replacing fires, but surface fires would come through probably every 15 or 20 years, maybe less, of course that's an average. And then stand replacing fires, like big fires, would probably come through every 100 years, once every 100 years or so. And so most of the forests in this area would not look like this, and they would not have the same composition that we have. All right, so what do we have? We have pines. We have western white pine and lodgepole pine, ponderosa pine. Okay, those are the main pines that you'll find, at least around here. Again, depending on elevation, there's some minor differences in that too. But Doug fir, grand fir would have been here, but not nearly to the degree that it is now. And in our site, we have cedar and hemlock, and of course we have some deciduous trees too, birch, aspen, and others. Okay, so, and larch. Okay, so I should point out larch. Here, I'll show you a larch if I can. It's kind of bright back there, but this tree right behind me, that's larch right there. Okay, I don't have any behind me on this side. This is the side I'm going to thin. Just do a real small patch, like a couple hundred square feet, maybe 300-400 square feet of thinning to show you kind of a before and after. Right, so that's kind of why we want to thin. All right, so fire prevention, forest health, the fact that we need to manage the forest because we're excluding fire, which is totally understandable. I don't want my house to burn down. All right, now let's talk about how we thin. Okay, first I want to show you our working area. Okay, so if I basically take this area here, it's kind of a triangle, and I go up there, there's a little trail back there, and then I come across here to there's a trail there, and then cut back across. That's kind of our working area, that triangle that I just pointed out. And so let's talk about decisions on what to thin. How should I approach this as far as thinning is concerned? Okay, because I've got, we've got all, these are tall, real tall lodgepole pines. There's a birch there. There's Doug fir. There's some cedar tucked into the back there. And then there's a grand fir, lots of grand fir, and that, especially the younger stuff in the understory. Grand fir, Doug fir, because they're shade tolerant and they tend to come up in that understory. They're also the most susceptible to pest and disease up here, so that's going to inform our thinning quite a lot. Okay, so in other words, I'm going to disfavor Doug fir, grand fir, not totally, but disfavor it because it's susceptible to pest and disease. So that's going to be a factor. The other thing I'm looking at is I'm not looking to cut the best trees, I'm looking to cut out the worst trees. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, I'm not logging here, and even if I was logging, I'd be looking to cull out. I'd be looking to leave some of the very good trees. All right. So in this case, how I'm going to approach thinning is I'm in that little triangle that I pointed out. I'm probably going to leave no more than 7 trees, maybe 8 trees total. Okay, now I will leave a robust understory. Okay, so you can see that's a lot of ocean spray back there. There's different There's all this bracken fern at the bottom. Of course, a lot of weeds too. We have a lot of tansy in there that's going to get whacked down. And other plants, okay? But those are kind of the main thing. I see some Utah honeysuckle and probably many others. Oh, and huckleberries. We have some huckleberries in there too on the other side. All right, so that's how I'm going to approach thinning. So let me show you another angle on this. Okay, this shows you the back side of that triangle. This is the shadier side. And so you can see there's this cedar right here. Nice looking cedar. It's young, but it's doing well. And I'm going to leave it. And the thing about cedar is it's gotten used to growing here in this shade because it's a shade tolerant tree. Not a shade loving tree, but a shade tolerant tree. And so you don't want to just cut all the trees around it and expose it completely because it won't do well. It'll get kind of sun scaldy because it's just been used to growing in the shade. So I'll be careful with that. But I am going to trim out several of these small trees. So a lot of this understory trees are going to be gone. And I'll pick, basically, like I said, 7 or 8 leaf trees. And in fact, I've even got a little white pine in there, in the middle there. So who knows? That may or may not stay. But all this Doug fir here, a lot of it's going to go, and I'll probably pick one, that biggest Doug fir out of that group there in the back. That'll probably stay, and all the ones around it will probably go. That one kind of that lodgepole pine right there, that guy on the corner of our triangle, that guy will probably stay. And we'll take out some of these other little lodgepole, and definitely all the grand fir, the young grand fir, that's coming out. All right, I'm not undecided on that white pine. And then on the other side, again, we'll leave a couple of good looking trees. This Doug fir right there may or may not go, not sure yet, because I do want to space these out properly. I think this triangle here should have 7 or 8 trees with a healthy understory. By the way, you can see there's some nice understory plants, bracken fern, ocean spray, huckleberries, woods rose. There's some honeysuckle in there, etc., etc. Okay, so I wanted to give you a good look at this, and then we're going to start thinning. All right, so all I've done is I went in there with the clearing saw and I just kind of took the little stuff down. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And mostly just so I can get in there and work with the saw, with a chainsaw. So now it's time to go in with a chainsaw and pick and choose trees to take down that last little bit in order to thin it out properly. Okay, but it's already looking a lot better, and you know, it's going to be healthier for it. Now again, I'll make decisions based on spacing, tree composition, and ultimately what I believe will be healthiest for this forest. You can see I left a lot of understory vegetation, and I want that. Okay, I want all those layers in there. But again, our little triangle is already looking better, but a long way to go. But for now, I'm going to move from the clearing saw to the chainsaw and take out a few of the bigger trees. But what that really means is that I'm taking out some of these grand fir that are intermediate size or co-dominant with, or really not even co-dominant, they're suppressed, but they're doing fine in this understory. And for now, I'll leave these tall lodgepole, and I'm going to leave that. There's a cedar in there, but I'm also going to leave a couple trees in front of that cedar on the south side just to kind of break it in slowly to adapting to getting a whole lot more sun.